We are live, Mr. Fabian.
Thank you.
A mother is due to give birth to her baby.
Hello,
She'll need a
Lusaka, hello, Zambia. This is PIPOZ Parliament, and this evening I'm joined by a gentleman called Fabian Miguel Manda, who is from within Lusaka. So Fabian has read the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Bill, and today we wanted to give an opportunity to him as a citizen of this country to also allow him to express his views on what he thinks and feels about the bill that will soon become everybody's law. So, but before we get there, I would like us to hear and share the message from our sponsors. And
A mother is due to give birth to her baby. She'll need a sanitary clinic with electricity, running water, medicine, and a doctor. But where she lives, these are not a guarantee. What she doesn't know is that she's entitled to more from her government, and she isn't empowered to ask for change. Social accountability can solve her problem. It's an approach by PIPOZ Action for Accountability and Good Governance in Zambia, working in different communities to help make government spending and services more effective. This involves informing the mother and her community what services they are entitled to, and facilitating dialogue between the mother and her health worker. Together, they can find ways and make services more accessible and appropriate with limited resources. The whole community can be involved in monitoring health services, recording medicine stockouts, and reporting each time the doctor is absent. They use this evidence to advocate for better government spending and services. With these efforts, she has the best chance of having a healthy baby. But it doesn't have to stop there. Social accountability can improve education, food security, and access to clean water. Some of the important things her child needs for a healthy, productive future. PIPOZ Action for Accountability and Good Governance in Zambia, PAAGZ.
thank you very much once again for joining us this evening. And today we are hearing from a citizen, a Lusaka resident, Mr. Manda, who has read the bill and would like to share some of the things that is found in the bill. And we are also joined by Mr. Msaiwale Mlewa. Mr. Msaiwale Mlewa is the aspiring candidate for Lusaka Central, who has equally read the cyber security bill. And this evening, he will also be sharing his views and what he thinks and conclusions from the bill. Gentlemen, welcome to PIPOZ Parliament.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. To kickstart, I would like to invite you, Mr. Fabian Miguel Manda, to introduce yourself to my panel. So then we could get to know who is Fabian Manda. And then from there, we'll move to you, Mr. Mlewa, and then we can pick it up from there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I really want to really appreciate for having me this evening. My name is Fabian Miguel Manda. I'm a fourth-year law student at Rockview University. That's where I'm studying my Bachelor of Laws.
Mr. Mlewa, you can also go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
Okay, my name is Saiwale Josephat Mlewa. I'm the aspiring candidate for Lusaka Central for Member of Parliament for 2021. I'm standing as an independent. I'm also the director of the Lucy Mlewa Memorial Foundation, which is a philanthropic foundation. I'm also a businessman. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So back to you, Mr. Manda. Tell us about the cybersecurity bill. Why should it be supported? Why should it be changed? Why should it be challenged?
Okay. I'm happy to be joined by Mr. Mlewa. I just see him mostly jogging, especially around 16 hours, 17 hours behind Crossroad Shopping Mall there.
Oh.
Coming back to the interesting topic of cyber security and cyber. Coming back to an interesting topic currently, when we talk about the cyber security and cyber crimes bill of 2021, it's an interesting one actually, so to speak. And I have read it so many times, even when the Solicitor General, Mr. Abram Wansa, State Council, had to sign it as the bill. Basically, just to bring it down, when you read through the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Bill of 2021, I'm against it in totality. Because when you read through it, you come to discover that most of the sections which are in the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Bill of 2021 are contravening with what I'm holding in my hand here, which is the supreme law of the land, that is the Constitution. For example, when you read the objectives just on the front page of the Cybersecurity and the Cyber Crimes Bill, you discover that the objective and the content inside, there is a difference when you read through or when you peruse through. Reason why I'm saying this is that, for example, one of the objectives is saying that to ensure the provision of cybersecurity in the public, to provide for the protection of the persons against cyber crimes. These are the objectives, Mr. Pilato. But when you go through the content, it's different. The best example I can give is when you read section 23 of the bill. You come to discover that section 23 of the bill coming down, it's saying that it's giving powers to government entities such as Anti-Corruption Commission, DEC, which is Drug Enforcement Commission, and also another government entity such as ZICTA to have access to our privacy. This is contrary to the supreme law of the land. When you read through 1996 Constitution, it says about freedom of expression. It says about privacy. When you read through Article 20 coming down of the 1996 Constitution, Act number 18, it talks about privacy. It talks about freedom of expression. So mainly what I'm against is what the members of parliament were thinking even to pass this bill, because so many clauses in this bill, they are contravening with the supreme law of the land. So all in all, I'm against this bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manda. Mr. Msaiwale, what is your view? I'm sure you've read the bill. What is your reaction? What do you think? It's a good law? Do you think it's a bad law? If it is a good law, why is it good? If it's a bad law, why is it bad? If it's a mixture, why does it have to be a mix?
Which I'm against.
Yeah, let me call upon Mr. Msaiwale.
So, all right. I have gone through the bill. Now, I'm not a lawyer by profession. I'm trained in business, but what I will say, I may not be as technical as the other speaker, but as a representative or an aspiring representative of the people, I took it upon myself to try and understand exactly what this piece of legislation was about. And then I also took time to engage the constituents of Lusaka Central and to get their feeling on it. You know, this is why, you know, the current topical issue of the grade 12, you know, it's also important, and I would like to connect it to this. You see, bills, legislation can at times become very technical, right? I am a master's degree holder, a meritorious one, but I still struggled with certain parts of understanding, you know, the legal jargon and the implications that it may have. So you can imagine someone who's a grade 12 or even below that, what kind of a struggle they would have. You understand where I'm coming from. Now, to get back to the topic, if you look at the bill, even when it was being debated in Parliament, the only one that gave convincing arguments and seemed to really have a firm grasp of the bill was the Justice Minister. The rest of them were either just waffling or just, you know, like following blindly along. And this is the problem that we have now with our legislative process. I wish we had had this discussion prior to the bill being passed, because now it's more academic. What I felt was that most of the MPs either did not read it or did not understand it, but passed it. And as usual, they engaged in collective irresponsibility, where you do not understand the piece of legislation that you are passing, and you're just doing it because that's your party's stance. So you don't want to seem to be going against the party. So that is my take on the whole process that went on. Now, to get into a little bit of the nitty-gritties of the bill, I do not think a cybersecurity bill in totality is wrong. But as has become a trend, a progressive bill is usually spoiled by sliding in clauses or provisions which make the bill bad. But in its totality, it's not bad, and I'll give a reason for that. You know, there are things like child solicitation in that bill. There's child pornography. There is a number of issues to deal with cyber crimes, cyberbullying, you know, hate speech, terrorist acts, things of that nature, which we would agree it's good to control them. But then it comes back to one of the main issues that affects people, the invasion of their privacy. And if you check most of the clauses, it gives sweeping powers to the minister, to ZICTA, and to law enforcement. And we know that our law enforcement is usually politically fueled. ZICTA is a quasi-government organization. And as such, a quasi-government organization, they'll be loyal to their appointers, even if they don't agree with them. Then the minister is a compromised person. They have an advisory council. I think what they should have put more in the bill was to ensure that there's checks and balances of the minister, ZICTA, and the advisory council should be very neutral. Now it says part-time experts or part-time professionals will be on the advisory council. I don't think if you have enough experts in ZICTA and all the other people who are working at that control center, I think you can have some advisors who are technical on the advisory council. But I think you also need some people who are morally and ethically uncompromised and independent. Because the sweeping powers that are given to these people is what is the main bone of contention. It hinders on invasion of privacy. And as we know, you see, currently our politicians are suffering a crisis of confidence. Whatever they do, even if they mean well, people are suspicious of them because of their previous behavior. So they are suffering a crisis of confidence. So even if they tried to do something good, to give them a carte blanche, a blank check, and say, no, you can implement this with no controls and with no one to check on you, with no checking mechanism. We all know how that is going to end up. It's going to be used to fix opponents. It's going to be used you know, to get information about people. You'll be blocking people's communication. And you know, the thing I'm worried about is communication will always happen. No matter what, people will communicate. So you've got maybe people who want to express an opinion. Then you curtail and you justify it with some contradictory or controversial clause in it. So what happens? People will try and find another way of expressing themselves. Haven't you noticed that public protests and the like, ever since the advent of social media, at least in Zambia, have reduced? Because people found an avenue of expressing themselves. As much as expression should not lead to hate, should not lead to violence and the like, obviously as responsible leaders, that's what we advocate for. But there should be freedom of expression. Now, if you want to control what people say, my worry is that they're going to find another way to say it. And the other way to say it may be more damaging than a few words on a screen. That is what I'd like to say about the bill.
So before I move to Mr. Manda, I would like to hear from you also, Mr. Msawale. What do we do in a situation where this bill and previous bills have been used as a determinant of a political party's popularity? And what I mean by that is, in a situation where winning a bill is a symbol for popularity for political parties in parliament. If, as an example, if the bill 10 falls, the opposition feels we are stronger, we are powerful than the ruling party. So now the ruling party has to make sure that this goes through so that they can also say we are stronger, we are powerful, and we can do anything we want. What do we do? What do we do as a people in a situation where a popularity contest gets that deep and it endangers the way we form laws?
You know, like I said,
what do we do in that situation?
I think we'll get to what we do. But my take, you see, you need to understand there are laws which pass with a simple majority. And then there are other laws which pass with a 2/3 majority. So obviously, when you've got a number of members of parliament, you've got the controlling number of members of parliament, you can pass the simple majority laws, which is what happened with the Cybersecurity bill. Now, you know, if you look at the Freedom of Information Act, which started in 2002, from 2002 to 2021, this law has been shelved because all of the governments have been cowards, because it's not favorable to them to pass the Freedom of Information bill. No one is even talking about it now. Right now, you've got 20 bills which are pending in parliament, but you have this one which was introduced and in a very expeditious manner was quickly implemented, okay? Because they felt it's beneficial to them. Now, it's beneficial to them now because they're in power. So let's say come August 15th or 14th, they're no longer in power. Will it still be beneficial to them? Will it be beneficial to their children? This is what we have lost in Zambia. We think of the now. We don't think of the greater good. And we don't think, okay, my job is to think of what is good for the nation. What is good for the nation, not now. We're treating laws like it's a law for me, for now. You get what I mean? If you look at constitutions like the US Constitution, they've got laws which have stood 100, 200 years because their forefathers were thinking long term with principles. They were not trying to fix opponents. They were not trying to artificially over-empower themselves just for that moment to hold on to power and things like that. So it's not even about it being a popularity contest. These laws that they are passing have selfish motives. You get what I mean? And you know that even Bill 10 would have passed if they did not succumb to the temptation of sliding in a few clauses which would benefit them. You get what I mean? So I think on what we do, whether we treat it as a popularity contest, I don't know. But this is my take on the legislative process. And I think that's why Parliament should have a diverse array, and possibly no one should have a majority. Maybe then we'll get somewhere. Hello? 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 Can't hear anything. Hello? I think we have connectivity problems. I can't hear.
Hello. Sorry, Mr. Msaiwale, I think
We've got the sound back now. Yeah.
you remember we had issues with the internet in the morning, so in the afternoon. So I was sure that it was your internet. I think it is my internet. So now,
I think it's
Mr. Manda, I want you to point at 2 articles that you feel are wrong, and I want you to tell the people that are watching and tell them why they are wrong. Internet, Manda, Mr. Manda, I want you to point at the issues, at least 1 or 2 articles that you feel are wrong, and tell the people that are listening, tell the president who is about to sign this bill why those articles are wrong and why they must be removed or amended or anything. You are on mute. You are on mute, Mr. Manda.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
I love the question you asked earlier on, Mr. Mlewa, that what do we do then when we find ourselves as a country in this situation? That is an important question, actually. You know, when you read, for example, that is section 32 of the bill, the Cybersecurity and the Cybercrime Bill. It talks about the law enforcement invading our privacy at any time without court order. I can give you an example. Right now, we have a celebrated international case, which is still a celebrated international case. The case of Apple versus the Bank of Britain.
Somebody has just tweeted saying we just witnessed an internet shut.
The situation of Apple, where Bank of
Could it be
Bank
true?
of Britain went to Apple. That can you open this phone for us, because this thief came and steal the money in the bank. The bank, Apple refused. So what am I trying to bring out in this point? Section 32 of cybersecurity and cybercrimes. It's talking about law enforcers invading our privacy, which is contrary to the supreme law of the land, that is the Constitution. Another important section I can bring out is section 51 of the bill itself. It's saying that, before even I go to section 51, for example, when you read the interpretation of the section, just when you open the first page, the second page, that is section 3 of the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Bill, It's talking about there shall be a committee appointed by the minister, which is the Minister of Transport and Communication in this case. The question we can ask ourselves, what is the importance of this committee if we have law enforcement agencies such as SCC, DEC, ZICTA? That committee is taking powers as well to government agencies. So that is what I'm against when you peruse through this bill. There are so many sections I can point, and I'm of the view that if the president right now can just sign this bill, it becomes law, and somebody challenges it to court or takes it to court. Do you know what the Constitution says? When you read Section 1 of the Constitution, it says clearly, any other written law which is inconsistent with the Constitution, it is now and void.
Sorry, Fabian, I think you
now and void. So which means that so many things the governments are trying to do, it's more or less like they are violating our freedoms, which is contrary to the supremo of the Constitution. I love what Mr. Mlewa earlier on alluded to. Mr. Mlewa gave an example of Bill 10. It's so sad and painful when you see members of parliament passing laws targeting certain individuals. It's so sad because currently, right now, we have about 22 bills
again,
in
because
parliament
I think we had
parliament
a
is dissolved.
disruption.
We have so many 22 bills, which are a lot currently. But if we focus so much on this bill, which is targeting some certain individuals and certain sections of the media, then we can't progress as a nation. For example, we have seen so many organizations speaking against, they are not in support of this bill. The best example I can give is the best example I can give. We have seen the Law Association of Zambia. They have rejected this bill because if you read so many sections, it's targeting some sections of society or some certain opposition. That's what this bill is trying to talk about. That's what the government, so to speak, they are pushing so much this bill to be passed into law. But that should not be the case. You see, the issue of Bill 10, we had so many clauses which were meant to for the development of this nation. But because there were some certain sections which were focusing on some certain individuals, that is a bad law, so to speak. So that's the reason, in totality, I'm against this bill. For example, I can give you a clear example. This bill, when it's passed into law, there will be no human rights. There will be infringement of human rights. That is number one case.
Fabian,
if this bill is also passed into law, there will be no freedom of expression. There will be no freedom to protection from privacy, which means because somebody can't be tapping or having access to my information which is in the phone without permission or without court order.
Mr. Msayawale, are you having these internet problems as much as we are doing?
I am, but for the moment they're okay. But I am having the internet connection problems, but for the moment it has stabilized.
Okay, so as we're waiting for Fabian to join us, okay, he's here. Fabian, much of what you said was not broadcasted because we were offline because of the internet disturbance and all of that. I would ask you to indicate the articles or the clauses that you feel are problematic and their impact on ordinary people like you and me in society today?
The best example I can give you, Mr. Pilato, is Section 32 of the bill and Section 28 of the bill. These sections are giving access to government agencies to be tapping through our phones, or to be tapping through your phone, tapping your phone conversation. That is what I'm against. This bill, yes, there are 2 or 3 clauses which are important. But when also you read Section 3 of the bill, it's talking about a committee which will be in charge of this bill. At any certain point, they can have access to your conversation through your phone, and they can submit it to the law enforcement agencies. So that also is taking away the powers from these government agencies, such as Anti-Corruption Commission, Drug Enforcement Commission. And also the reason I'm against this bill, which is very cardinal, if the president today signed this bill and somebody challenges it and take it to court, because Article number 1 of the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, it says any law, any other written law which is against this Constitution, which against the Constitution, shall be declared null and void to an extent of removing the clause. So that is an important aspect. If just somebody challenges the bill, or when the president signs it, somebody challenges to court and take it to court rather, that is also what will happen. When you also read Section 33 of Cybersecurity and Cybercrime Bill, it's also saying that, and I quote, a person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable to a conviction of not exceeding 10 years, which means when somebody, for example, is talking, for example, we are heading to an election where, for example, if somebody use an idiom whilst campaigning, that is also contravening to what the Electoral Process Act number 35 of the laws of Zambia says, because it's contravening with several provisions of the law. That is what I'm against. So what do we do when we find ourselves in this situation as a nation? What I'm calling up, even when the president before even he signs this bill, he should also peruse through, try to read through this bill, because so many sections are contravening with the Constitution. It's so sad when some pieces of legislation are being passed in Parliament, targeting some sections of the media or targeting some opposition political party. That should not be the case as a nation. Currently, right now, we have 22 bills in Parliament pending before Parliament is dissolved. But Parliament is focused so much to pass this bill, just to target some certain individuals. That should not be the case, because we have so many progressive bills. For example, we have in Parliament tobacco bill, which is, they haven't even touched it. They haven't even reached on third stage. So that's where we should be focusing so much attention. But if as a nation we focus on the pieces of legislation that is trying to eliminate certain sections of individuals, that should not be the case. Because if we pass this law, tomorrow it can harm you yourself. It can harm you yourself. That is what I'm against. So people should just read through this bill. I'm of the view that 100% correct. This bill is targeting some certain individuals. For example, let me give you one section. For example, section 12, which is saying that a committee appointed through section 3, that is the committee which shall be appointed by the Minister of Transport, if feels at any time, shall have access to any device, any mobile, any computer, any electronic system. What is this? What are we trying to achieve then as a nation? So that is what I'm against, Mr. Pilato, when I read this through. Because it's paining me so much when I read all of it, when I read through it. Most of the sections, Mr. Muna had to quote about child pornography, which is a good clause. But if we have already a lot of sections which are targeting you or which are targeting Mr. Mlewa, then we are not going anywhere. This is the issue we had, for example, in the case of Bill 10. Bill 10, it had some good clauses. For example, the dissolution of Solicitor General to combine with Attorney General. But because there was an introduction of deputy ministers, there was an introduction, for example, Parliament should not have a say when government is contracting some debts. That was a bad thinking of the committee, which was in support of some sections for Bill 10 to pull through. And now we have found ourselves in this situation of cybersecurity and cybercrimes bill. Because,
Okay,
for example,
yeah, I wanted to also to hear Mr. Msaiwale's also his views, because he had also indicated the good and the bad. I wanted to understand what could be the reasoning. Why combining the good and the bad in one bill? Do you think that is how bills are supposed to be? Is that the nature of?
No, it's not even, and I don't think you need to be a lawyer. I don't think it's a legal question. I think it's a moral question. I'll go back to what I said earlier. I said we need to learn to embrace the greater good. You cannot think that maybe because you have the majority or the simple majority, that, or because you're in power at the moment, you've got the arrogance of incumbency, you feel that you're cleverer than everyone. A lot of people end up in parliament or in positions because of someone they knew, because they were in the right place at the right time, because they were related to someone in power. Probably half of them, right? And the other half ride on the party. They didn't even really earn it. You know what I mean? So, I think that if we had people debating legislation who are morally upright and, they understand the implication of passing laws, and we don't want to be playing, a flip-flop game, because I can guarantee you, whether it's this year, whether it's 2026, whether it's 2031, the next government that comes in, they know the bad laws already. But this precedent having been set, we hope it won't happen. But if you look at the pattern, is that they will repeal those laws which went against them whenever another government comes in. But then once they get in and feel the comfort of the seat, they will start doing a similar thing. You get what I mean? This thing started with MMD trying to declare Kaunda stateless, trying to introduce clauses in the constitution to bar Kaunda from standing. You can imagine. And they had an absolute majority. It wasn't just a simple majority. So you can imagine this has been replaying itself from 1991 up till now. Now you can imagine the amount of resources, the time that we've wasted on some of these bills, especially like Bill 10, which never went through, right? when we have more pressing issues to deal with. But you see, the desperation to hold on to power is what causes this. And also the collective irresponsibility of members of parliament, and also the lack of understanding and the poor reading culture amongst a lot of our legislative representatives. So, you know, it just creates the perfect storm in that you've got these people who, most of them, you know, even when they're debating it, they don't even understand it. You even wonder if they read it. And anyway, the bill, it seems complex. I wish when they presented some of these bills, they took into consideration that these people are not lawyers, and then they highlighted the salient points and put it in a language which to them would not be perceived as jargon. Maybe then they might read it, although I doubt, you know, because if we're still arguing about a grade 12 for someone who's engaged in a job which is quite technical, you know, in the legislative process, if we're still complaining and arguing about grade 12, I don't think anyone would say, okay, no, I think let's summarize this bill, let's highlight the salient points, and let's put it in language which would be understood by a non-legal person. Because ultimately what we want to get through is the bill, the points, and we want them to understand what they're voting for. I'm pretty sure 70% just voted. I'm pretty sure. I'm very sure about that. And this is the sad part, because if we continue like this with bills like this, Pilato, where will we go as a nation? How are we going to develop? And the issue of sliding in clauses, you know, that benefit you or maybe disadvantage your opponents, or maybe, you know, you can't think you're clever because you're in power. You know what I mean? There's always someone more clever than you. You get what I mean? So I don't know.
I wanted to get also your view on what could be possible now. Is there anything that you feel could be done to challenge it? Is there any room to convince the president not to sign it? Is there any other avenue that is left for people or for civil society organizations, for institutions to challenge this bill?
I think the civil society organizations and LAS have already spoken out about it. And, you know, if you go even on the president's page, you find there are a lot of people who pass disparaging remarks and actually even rude remarks and insulting remarks. And, you know, when you have a situation like that, and the person assenting to the bill has been a victim of cyberbullying themselves, I really doubt that. I don't think it's going to be reversed. I don't really think there's anything you can do to be reversed. That can be done to be reversed. The civil society has already spoken, and he himself, if you go on his page, just check, he's regularly, you know, hazed by a number of people. But like I said earlier, you know, passing the bill is not going to solve the problem, because by the nature, you know, it's like water. You know, when you have water and it's passing in a stream, if you block that water, the water will find another path. Even if it takes it 100 years, it will start eroding. It will even cut a rock. You get what I mean? Until it finds another way. So blocking freedom of expression or curtailing people's privacy, it may work initially, but eventually they're going to find another avenue. This is the nature, because people are expressive by nature. Even if you go back to the Roman times, even if you go back to the times of Jesus, you know, in Nazareth, people would always express themselves. There was no social media those times, you know.
Okay, I think he's lost connection. Manda, Mr. Manda, I wanted to hear from you, which I've not heard you talk about cyberbullying, which Mr. Wali had mentioned. Don't you think this bill is about addressing cyberbullying?
Yes, when you talk about cyberbullying, which is very cardinal, but it has been the way it has been phrased. It's whereby it has been combined with hate speech. Cyberbullying itself, the cybersecurity and cybercrime bill, it has not defined bullying. You read through it, the all bill, you will not find the definition of bullying. So that is a problem. Even when they were voting for this bill, that's a problem they were having. Because when you read on the definition on the first page, I've tried to peruse through myself. I haven't seen the definition of bullying. So on bullying, I won't talk about it much because there is no definition of bullying. This cyber security and cybercrime bill, for example, cyber security, the definition itself they have defined the practice of defending computers, mobile devices, electronic system, network, and data from malicious attacks. That is the definition of cybersecurity. When you read the definition of cyber crimes, offenses committed through internet. That's what this bill defines cyber crimes. But when you read the examples of this, there is no bullying. So bullying in itself, it's not in this bill. They have just talked about, when you talk about it, hate speech, for example. Bullying, they are saying when you bully somebody, it's 4 years imprisonment. Hate speech, 2 years imprisonment. But they have just said bullying somebody, it's 4 years imprisonment. But they have this itself, the bill, it has not defined what is bullying itself. So that is a problem even when somebody challenges this bill to court. Of somebody, for example, I bully you, Mr. Pilato, on internet. What the court will try to define what is bullying. They will try to read all of it, the bill itself. They won't find the definition of the bill. They will read, for example, the Electronic Communication and Transaction Act. There is no definition of bullying. For example, I want to give a clear example why I'm also against this bill. When you read the case of Pilato and others versus the people, when you read Doctors Association of Zambia and others versus the people, the court clearly stated on the clauses which were contravening with the Constitution, that is Public Order Act. In your case, Mr. Pilato and others, the court itself said Section 3, Section 4, Section 5, and Section 7 contravenes with the provision of the Constitution, and it must be eliminated. That was the point of the courts. In your case again, for example, let me go straight to the judgment. When you read Judgment 79 of Pilato and others, the courts said, and I quote,
just a bit, Mr. Manda. You mean you have my judgment and I don't have my judgment? What's your problem? Okay, continue, Manda, continue. Continue.
We might have lost him, I think. The same way I dropped as well. This internet is not working well with us.
Yeah, so Mr. Msaiwale, I asked him and I'm going to ask you, are you saying this bill is not really about addressing cybersecurity bill, cyber bullying? Because that's what we've been told. The people of Zambia have been told that this bill is about curing cyberbullying. You have read
when I went through the bill, unlike most MPs, I actually was looking for the exact term cyberbullying. and I wanted it to be clearly defined, exactly what constituted cyberbullying. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see it. I don't know. Did you have a chance to find it or see it?
I did not. I'm still searching, even outside
No,
of
I went through, and I read it twice, and I couldn't find it. So I thought that, okay, maybe I've overlooked it. But I think that was supposed to be one of the core components. The other thing that I was looking for in that bill was cyber theft, hacking accounts and things like that. You know what I mean? So I think that they failed to address, those two key points thoroughly: cyberbullying and, this financial crimes using the internet, cyber theft, and the steps that will be taken. When you read through the bill, you keep seeing the authority, the minister, the authority. They've given sweeping powers to these guys without clearly defining some of the pertinent issues like cyber theft through internet and cyberbullying. Now, I would have thought that those are very pressing issues because you've got a lot of online fraud, and you have a lot of cyberbullying. In some countries, it even ends up in children committing suicide because they're bullied by their friends online, or they post pictures of them, personal or private pictures which were not meant for the public, and then out of embarrassment, they kill themselves. So I would have liked that to be clearly defined. It's like they don't really understand what cyberbullying is, so they didn't deal with it, or they wanted to leave it open for interpretation. But I think it's important to look at certain points and be specific about it. I mean, this is not something new. We're not the only country who has a cyber security bill or is about to have a cyber security bill. So they could as well have consulted, with legal fraternities from other countries that have executed the cybersecurity bill, which was all inclusive and accepted by the people. But it's like we were trying to customize it to our own needs, and our own needs includes access to people's information, an invasion of privacy, fixing perceived opponents. You get what I mean? That's why you found this resistance. You get what I mean? It wasn't about protecting our children from being cyberbullied. It wasn't about protecting our money. It was about it. It has a twist of personal hints. If this law is not revoked by the next government, should the president assent to it, it should at least be looked over with a fine-tooth comb and the contentious issues pulled out. And I would love to see an increased level of accountability and a reduced amount of sweeping powers for Zicta and the minister. Because the minister is a politician. So whichever political party is going to come from, that's where his allegiance is going to lie. You get what I mean? So I would love to see, if this bill is revised, the contentious clauses are pulled, the power of the minister, especially the minister, more even than Zicta, because he's a politician, he's not a technocrat, drastically reduced. The composition of the advisory council is also, clearly outlined to include people who are perceived to be extremely neutral, like bishops and so on and so forth. And then also for cyberbullying to be, to be dealt with and clearly defined, and also cyber financial crimes as well to be dealt with thoroughly. Those are the things that I'd like to see in the bill. So I think that the cyberbullying has not been properly or effectively addressed.
The Minister of Communication said, I don't know, not the Minister of Communication, the Minister in charge of this transport and Chan did say that
and communication.
Only criminals are worried about this bill. Are you a criminal?
Well, I've never slept in a police cell. I've never been arrested. I've never been given a call out. I've never engaged myself in any criminal activities. You know, when I speak, I feel, or I hope I speak for not only for myself, but for the people who I wish to represent. And I hope I'm speaking for the next generation. We can't be flip-flopping on laws. It's not a game. You know what I mean? We don't do this just for ourselves. And you know, I was on a debate on Hot FM the other night, and I was told when I said something contentious that this is the right thing to do. I was told by the other panelist who was a member of the ruling party. He says, "I would like to see you in parliament. We'll see if you still have that opinion." You get what I mean? Meaning, like, you are saying those things because you're not in there now. The moment you get there, uzachinja. You know, uzachinja. You change your stance. And then I said, evidently, this person does not know me. You know, they might be shocked. That's why the people of Lusaka Central, they should give me a shot. They are going to be surprised that, oh, okay, there are people like this, because we've come to believe everyone just thinks about themselves. You get what I mean? And so long I'm okay, then it's okay. You get, so long I'm okay, my friends are okay, and my family is okay, then everything's okay. If you're a representative of the people and you had to work for that position, it's not okay. Even if my son's okay, it's not okay. You get what I mean? And we need to get that, the greater good. We need to start doing things for the greater good of the country. You know, we need to have laws that stand the test of time. That even when our great-great-grandchildren come and you and I are dust, they should be able to say, but those old men, you know, they did a good job. You know what I mean?
I'm very happy to hear you talk about those things, because that's what also drives me. I'm more concerned about tomorrow and what we do today and how that affects tomorrow. Thank you very much for making it to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to ask you to take advantage of this platform, because I've taken advantage of your time. What is your message to the people of Lusaka as they go into this election, where you are also standing? What is the message to the people of Lusaka?
My message to the people of Lusaka Central is that this election should not be about parties. This election should be about the right person. Whenever I would announce my candidature, people would say, which party? Voting for parties, where has it taken us? We did well when we got MMD in, we got financially emancipated, and then now, the past 10 years, we've been taken back. We're almost back where we were, if not even going into negatives. So this thing of voting for parties, voting for tribes, this block voting, it has to come to an end. Analyze the person. Don't just tick. You know, it's okay for you to tick a president who's one color, an MP who's another color, a councillor who's independent. There's no harm in that. If you think that those three people combined are the best combination. And that's the only way you're going to get the message across to the powers that be, that if you're adopting because you are trying to give your friend a job, if you're adopting someone because they are looking for a retirement plan, if you're adopting someone because you think that they did work for the party and you owe them, that's the only way you will change that thinking. Once they realize that, Zambians have woken up, they are no longer choosing the best, the preferred party or whatever, and you can't win them over with a song or milli-meal or 100 kwacha. They're actually choosing the best person. Once you've got the best people in power, you'll have the best results. You know, we complain about some of our ministers and the way they behave. But guess what? If you don't vote for them, it starts with voting for quality MPs. That's how you have quality ministers. If you keep on voting, you like the president, and then you vote for whatever rubbish he comes along with, you're going to have rubbish ministers. But if you don't vote for them, how will they become ministers? You get what I mean? So what I'm saying is that for Lusaka Central, if you want an improvement in social services, if you want innovative, fresh ideas, if you want someone who is passionate about local empowerment, really passionate about local empowerment, because as a Zambian myself, I've been disadvantaged. You get what I mean? Because we only give lip service to local empowerment. If you read my articles, you'll see some of the ideas that I have. take time. Let's have a reading culture. Read what I want to do and see if that resonates with you. And if you want to see, we have a foundation in the name of my late mother, the Lucy Mlewa Memorial Foundation. We've been working in the community the past 2 years. See what I've done without any power. Just from raising funds from friends, families, and corporates. See what I've done. And then you can judge me. And then you see what your representatives have done with power, with gratuity, with everything. And then compare it to what I've done. And then you make a decision. So August 12, 2021, check on Msaiwale Mlewa, Independent Member of Parliament, Lusaka Central. I won't let you down. I mean business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Msaiwale. That was PIPOZ Parliament for this week. And we had Mr. Msaiwale and Mr. Manda. Mr. Manda had dropped because of the internet connections. We've not had the best internet connection this evening. And we do hope that the next edition will be better and we'll have stable internet connection. So we will have a special edition of PIPOZ Parliament on Monday, and we'll be discussing interesting issues concerning social and accountability and good governance. Make a date with us. As we close, we're going to obviously hear from our sponsors, and then we can call it a night.
Good night, everyone.
A mother is due to give birth to her baby. She'll need a sanitary clinic with electricity, running water, medicine, and a doctor. But where she lives, these are not a guarantee. What she doesn't know is that she's entitled to more from her government, and she isn't empowered to ask for change. Social accountability can solve her problem. It's an approach by PIPOZ Action for Accountability and Good Governance in Zambia, working in different communities to help make government spending and services more effective. This involves informing the mother and her community what services they are entitled to, and facilitating dialogue between the mother and her health worker. Together, they can find ways and make services more accessible and appropriate with limited resources. The whole community can be involved in monitoring health services, recording medicine stockouts, and reporting each time the doctor is absent. They use this evidence to advocate for better government spending and services. With these efforts, she has the best chance of having a healthy baby. But it doesn't have to stop there. Social accountability can improve education, food security, and access to clean water. Some of the important things her child needs for a healthy, productive future. PIPOZ Action for Accountability and Good Governance in Zambia, PAAGZ.